And we are live. Now we just have to wait and see if it's actually working. Yes, it is actually working. We are live on the North State Symphony Facebook page. So Andrew, keep entertaining us before 1 p.m.
I better stick to violin, Scott.
Again, we're live. We're just waiting around for 1 p.m. to hit us. This is going to be our live Just Ask virtual session number 2. And with me is Andrew Sords, violin, currently joining us from Cleveland, Ohio.
Yes. Snow squalls this week and everything.
So Andrew, before we start, what would you like to play for us?
Oh, well, you know, Scott, I've been bugging you to do the Brahms Concerto. I've been persistent about us doing the Beethoven Concerto, but more than anything, how did I pass? Did I do okay on the audition?
You can play in the next 10 seasons. How about that? So again, we're waiting for 1 p.m. and then we will officially start our virtual Just Ask session, number 2 virtual edition with Andrew Sords. And Andrew, this will be the 3rd Just Ask that you've done with us now.
Yes, we did one after Sibelius Concerto, one after the run of the Beethoven Triple concerts last fall. That was really fun. Yeah. We've done a number of interviews together, Scott. We've done interviews on California Public Radio when they forgot my name.
Good times, good times. Okay, so it's officially 1 o'clock, which means it's officially time to start our Just Ask virtual edition number 2. I'm joined with guest violinist Andrew Sords. And first of all, for those of you who don't know, and we're starting to get some people joining us, we are continuing online a series that we usually do during our Masterworks concerts with the North State Symphony. So for most Masterworks, right after the first half, we will provide a number for people to text anonymously. And during intermission, I'm actually scrolling through hundreds of questions from the audience about issues, questions for the orchestra, questions about
hairstyles and fashion, even.
Hairstyles, fashion, is Andrew Sords single, etc., etc. I mean, questions are wide and varied. So, and we're happy to continue online while we're all stuck in our homes until this pandemic is much less of an issue than it is now. So I thought we would start out today just chatting a little bit about how Andrew and I started collaborating, which goes back
over a decade, actually.
Over a decade to 2009.
Yes, I went on Tinder looking for conductors. Not shining face.
Yeah,
no,
sure.
Actually, you were music director in Kent State. And I'm a Northeast Ohio resident, and I went to go see your performance of Dvorak 8. I believe you threw your baton into the viola section. Is that the right concert?
Sounds like the right concert.
Yes. And we went out for Long Island's and chicken tenders with ranch. And we ended up working together. I remember you said to me, if you could do any Mozart concerto, which would you do in Toronto? And our first performance was with the Mozart Turkish Concerto.
That's right. Turkish Concerto. And you even performed with one of my conducting students at Kent State.
The Brook Violin Concerto.
Yeah, the Brook Violin.
You and I just did in Alaska, so that was a good bookend.
Yeah.
Later.
Yep. So we started out in Toronto doing Mozart, and geez, it's probably even. Do you know what our next performance was?
It was probably the Mendelssohn Concerto in North Dakota.
Oh wow. Okay.
But we also did Dance Macabre in Mansfield, and we worked together in Johnstown, Arkansas, California. I might be forgetting a couple places. Sibelius Concerto, Beethoven Triple, Brook in Alaska, several Mendelssohns. Fives, Spartanburg.
Oh yeah, Spartanburg, California, several times now.
Spartanburg, where half an inch of snow shut down the city.
That is not hard to believe. It was fun in Spartanburg racing you.
Oh, the BMW track. And the M4s. Oh, yes.
So for those of you just joining us, we are live with guest violinist Andrew Sords in our virtual edition of Just Ask. And right now we're just talking about all of our various collaborations since we first met back in 2009. And it's been quite a trek since then. And many different hairstyles. Right now,
Ellen DeGeneres, the boy bander, to blonde, to dark brown.
Right now we got the Bon Jovi going on.
The Bon Jovi, yes. In fact, you and I were supposed to see Bon Jovi in June.
Which is canceled.
It was canceled.
It's canceled. Yep. And so we've been in many states together. Most recently, we were in Juneau, Alaska, where we did Brooks' first concerto. Before that, North State Symphony, you had your second appearance with North State in September of last year, back when we did.
And do you have, Scott? I just adore them. From Terry, concertmaster, to your fabulous executive director, Elizabeth, to the donors that we meet at the Reading Country Club. I just love that orchestra.
And in September, we did Beethoven's Triple Concerto as part of Beethoven's 250th celebration year, which is pretty incredible. Yeah, and I don't even remember what we did before that. I think it was Tchaikovsky.
We did Tchaikovsky Concerto, yes. Oh.
So needless to say, we've done many, many different concerti with lots of different orchestras. It's always fun to collaborate with someone who you know you have a good relationship with, good chemistry with, where you can actually have fun on stage between conductors, soloists, musicians, audience, and we certainly do that with North State, for example.
You know, sometimes with conductors, if they don't know you, if you're meeting them at the first rehearsal, and if they're feeling a certain kind of way about how you're doing the phrase, they might say, you know, Andrew, I was wondering, when you get to rehearsal J, do you think that you could possibly consider the slightest lingering? And with Scott, oh no, Andrew, you're too fast.
Sort of. I even remember one story. What was this? Toronto, Mozart Turkish Concerto, in the middle of a blizzard?
Oh gosh, 25 below.
Was it dress rehearsal?
Yeah, it was.
Dress rehearsal. We started
the most fantastically acoustic, perfect auditorium in all of Canada.
Yes.
We were.
What's the hall? It's the
George Weston Hall.
Yeah, George Weston Hall in Toronto. Amazing hall. We had just started rehearsing the concerto, and Andrew was on his way, and he wasn't there yet. And just miraculously got to the hall literally 30 seconds before the first entrance in the first movement of the Mozart concerto. Walked on stage like the whole thing was planned, and that for that I give you kudos.
It was not planned. The speed laws that were broken.
Fun times. We also made some several promotional videos. One in North Dakota, a couple in California now.
If I'm a little jet lagged, there might be bloopers from those videos. But I don't have an excuse from last week, though, do I?
So again, we're here. Thanks for everyone for being here. this is our virtual Just Ask. So again, if you have questions for either of us, you can shoot them along. We're going to continue to chat for a little bit and also talk about the effect of the pandemic on musicians like Andrew and all of the freelance musicians that are all around the world suffering from lost gigs, lost revenue, and of course, organizations losing concerts left and right. So we'll talk about that and the impact it's had, and hopefully find ways to get around that. Andrew already has a question.
I'm not taking requests to play the piano.
Andrew, we'll go ahead and answer this question first because it's coming to you. So from Tom Moore, hi Andrew, what's in the glass? If you could commission a new concerto, what would you choose to write it? Or who would you choose to write it?
Very good question. I have a dear friend, Evan Fine, in New York, who wrote me a concerto a number of years ago at CIM, and I think that it's high time we get it published, edited, published, and ready for public consumption. There are so many talented composers out there. I think it'd be fascinating to do something with a Hans Zimmer or a John Williams or somebody who can really write some cinematic tunes. Very good question.
And that ties in really well with something you just mentioned, Andrew. As we're talking about the pandemic and its effects on all of us, many musicians are looking for things other than performance to live by. And so something that you've done, which other musicians have done as well, is you've actually created sort of your own company. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, so along with Daniel Singer, who is the assistant director for the Cleveland Orchestra Choruses, we have created our company, Greenpoint Editions, to have sleek and contemporary editions of works by Mozart, Hubai, Haydn, Sibelius, Chopin, the unknown Afro-Cuban composer Claudio Brindisi Solas, and they're available right now on my website. Apple Music, actually, of Minneapolis, Minnesota, will be distributing from the summer, but it has been a really fun labor of love to get these works together. I mean, how many times do we crack open a score and there are misprints, there are wrong notes, you get on stage and the shadows are casting weird light patterns and you can't see them, and from all these frustrations was born our music editions.
And so how many have you so far?
Half a dozen.
Half a dozen.
Yeah.
And what's the site that they can find this?
AndrewSords.com. AndrewSords.com. And we're actually going to have the world premiere print version of the Isaïe Chopin Ballade in G minor. And lest the pianists come for me with pitchforks saying why is a violinist playing an arrangement of the famous ballade, well, actually, Isaïe took it on tour with none other than Camille Saint-Saëns, who gave it 2 thumbs up. In parlance, he gave it 2 thumbs up. So that's my defense.
Again, we're here with Andrew Sords on our virtual Just Ask, where you can submit questions about anything and everything. And we're also along the way chatting about the effects of the pandemic on all of us. I know with us, for example, little did we know that performances we had in January and February, and for North States, we were lucky to squeeze in a week of youth concerts in early March, and that was it. That's when everyone started shutting down. That's when social distancing started, and so we were very lucky to reach just under 4,000 kids with our youth concerts, which we're very happy about. Yeah. But Andrew, you and I had performed literally 3 or 4 weeks before that with a set of concerts in Juneau, Alaska, and who knows when.
I mean, the thing that dominated the news when you and I were working together that week was certainly the death of Kobe Bryant. And right. Flying back, we were on the same flight, I believe, from Juneau to Seattle, as I recall. And flying back to see masks on folks, both on the plane and in the airport, was unusual. You know, this was something we read about on page 47 of the paper, and we didn't really think it was happening to us. And then we did our concerts as normal in February. I was out in Los Angeles. I went to Boulder, Colorado, a number of shows in Southern California, including more Beethoven Triple. Came back to Cleveland and did a wonderful concert with the Brahms Piano Quintet, some of my very favorite colleagues in town. And that week, the world stopped for musicians. This has been a real industry neutralizer from not only the folks you see on stage, but the stagehands, the recording producers, the conductors, the house managers. It has really impacted everybody from the top down, from the bottom up.
Yep, we're seeing it everywhere, and some people, some states here and there are dabbling where it appears the virus has been less of an effect. But we'll see how this all plays out, and just how slowly everything starts to come back in the next weeks and months. Certainly, California is erring on the side of extreme caution, and so we have to plan for anything and everything at this point. And here at the North State Symphony, we are incorporating plan A, B, C, D for potential scenarios for our 20th season starting in the fall of this year.
Tell us about it. What do you have programmed, actually? I forgot. I want to know.
Well, we can't tell you yet, so I'm sorry, Andrew. But again, it is very exciting in some ways, because some of the things that are happening now in the COVID-19 era are things that will remain even when we start doing concerts in packed concert halls again. Some of the online offerings, some of the unique concert formats, some of the really out-of-the-box, innovative, creative things that are happening. This is the perfect opportunity for all those to be tried and tested, and then whatever remains in effect will hopefully just accompany a live symphonic season or a live recital and soloist season. So that is one of the advantages of being stuck in a room for a long period of time, is you actually have time to think, and not everyone can be on social media all the time. So hopefully not too much time on devices, and some of the...
One silver lining to this pandemic, if there is a silver lining, is forcing all of us to slow down and notice what's going on. Standing at our kitchen window to see two cardinals fighting over a blue jay and fighting over the territory and the tulips, I never would have taken the moment before to notice. But now all we have is time.
Yep, time is all we have, and I have... we have gone on walks and noticed birds singing that we've never noticed before. Just maybe they're all happy that we're not out and about, but who knows?
It's very unusual for me. I'm usually running helter skelter, jumping on the plane, jumping to meet my pianist for rehearsals, jumping to frantically learn the music. But since we moved last month during the pandemic, I don't advise moving during the pandemic. I have been learning about all things water softeners and HVACs and salt pellets and staining and painting and weeding and lawn care, things I probably wouldn't have been picking up if I were in Reno, Nevada right now, where I was supposed to be playing Sassons.
Exactly. So while we're just sitting here chatting, again, if you're just joining us, feel free to submit a question to either of us or both of us about anything and everything. We have a question. Do you find that you practice longer with all of this extra time? Andrew, go ahead.
My best practicing comes when the fire is lit under me. So, for instance, if I get off a 12-hour flight and I have rehearsal that night or the next morning, I absolutely, in my day, will practice. It's funny, when we have many things to accomplish in one day. If you have 12 hours of work, you can get everything done. If you have 12 hours of available time, you might get one thing done. So yes, I am practicing every day. Absolutely. Is it 12 hours? No. But in these times, I am putting some new music up on the stands. The Mozart Second Concerto, I have yet to do with an orchestra. The Vuitton Fifth Concerto, Mendelssohn F minor sonata, different repertoire projects. Like Scott said, I'm not going to reveal all of them. No. Play that card.
Yeah, of course. So Andrew, let's back up a little bit for those of us or at least those in the chat joining us who may not have heard your story, tell us about how you first started playing violin. What were your inspirations, and how did you find the impetus to keep going from that point?
Well, I never wanted to be a violinist, Scott. I grew up across the street from a playground, and that was where I spent much of my time, on the ball field and swinging from ropes. And I wanted to be a Secret Service agent and wear a smart suit and carry a little gun and defend the president. I wanted to be a police officer, a firefighter, so I would ride my bike at full speed up and down our street, imitating the siren. All of our neighbors knew me from that role. And when I heard the legendary violinist Itzhak Perlman on Sesame Street, and he made that 3-pound box of wood sing and soar, it just reached me somehow. And I asked my mom for lessons, and my parents aren't professional musicians. They didn't know what to do with me. So she called the local neighborhood music school, and they referred me to the young, vivacious violin teacher, Liza Grossman, who really was so inspiring. You know, we would take a piece of music and we would come up with a story for it. We'd have different adjectives for the minor section, for the different thematic material. And I remember that she would embrace my curiosity with the instrument. She tells the story of my second or third lesson, where we had been working on Twinkle, just getting the right position and going from one string to the next string. And I said, Mrs. Grossman, guess what? Did you know you could play Twinkle Twinkle all on one string? Watch, I can go up the G string, up the D string. I could just stay on one string, and I can slide between different notes. So no, you can slide. You will listen to Yasha Haidt or something funny like that. I never wanted to practice, Scott, and so I would. I was gifted the entire Hardy Boys mystery novels collection, and I would put in the cassette tape of Itzhak Perlman playing the Four Seasons, and I would read a Hardy Boys mystery cover to cover. And then go downstairs. My mother would say, I'm so proud of you for practicing. Go outside and play. And that's how I got out of practicing for years and years and years. And then I went to the Interlochen Center for the Arts. And I heard these kids that really, really could play. Josh Groban was there at the time in Fiddler on the Roof. Gosh, could he sing. Sarah Chang did the Tchaikovsky Concerto. I couldn't believe that a teenager could play quite like that. And I realized these folks are really, really working at their craft. And that was all I wanted to do. All I wanted to do was stand on stage and play one of these concertos that had me bouncing around the house. I remember the coda to the Tchaikovsky Concerto. You and I have done this concerto before. It made me feel like a rock star running around the house, air violining. And now, 20 years later, I still haven't lost that excited feeling of being on stage, reaching the coda to Brahms, Sibelius, Tchaikovsky, and thinking, I'm the luckiest guy.
So when did your mom discover that you were not actually playing?
Oh, it took months. It took a couple days. No, I think it took a couple of years.
And you have, quite a few concerti in your repertoire that you play with various orchestras. But if you're learning a concerto for the first time, how long does it take you? What steps do you take? And any other interesting things about the process that you want to divulge?
It takes much longer now than it ever did before. When you're 18, 19, 20, and you're in school and all you're doing is playing violin between trio rehearsals, lessons, studio class, orchestras, master classes, I never thought in undergrad that I was playing all day long, but I must have been because I had all these things lined up. But for instance, I remember the Tchaikovsky Concerto and Scottish Fantasy not taking all that long. And just a couple years ago, I did the Elgar Concerto for the first time. And of course, it's 51, 52 minutes long. And I swear it took me 6 or 8 months to learn it. And I felt like a student all over again. It also depends on, have you grown up listening to the concerto? You grew up listening to Mendelssohn and Bruch and Dvorak and Tchaikovsky, and it really never leaves your DNA. But you learn the Lorensky Concerto for the first time or the Bruch Second Concerto, it's like learning a new language.
Absolutely. What's the most recent concerto that you've taken the time to break apart and learn?
The Vuitton Fifth Concerto. I've done so many of the standard works this year: Tchaikovsky, Sibelius, Beethoven Triple, Bruch Concerto with You. I wanted to learn something that I've never even cracked the score to before. And, you know, my wheelhouse, Scott, as you like to say, is 1830 to 1860. So Concerto falls into that wheelhouse. And it's a short number, like 19 or 20 minutes long. I'd like to finish the Mozart Concerto with Mozart 2. I'm working on solo Bach every day, which is something that I normally don't fit into my schedule. And
how's that going?
You know, sometimes you feel fluent in different languages, whether it's French, Tchaikovsky, Mozart, or Spanish. Bach has always been a unique language that maybe I feel conversational in. Maybe I can pick up words here and there on the street, but fluency, it's within reach.
That's good. I mean, Bach is certainly going back to the basics, and it's nice to just focus on simple things, fresh air, harmony, a cool glass of water. You know, that's what Bach is. It's the essence of everything after it. I mean,
and when you hear a fantastic violinist like Rachel Podger, you know, some of these Baroque stars who really just have it so ingrained that it almost sounds like it shouldn't be played any other way. It's like these stars who really have conquered Bach, the Rachel Podgers and the Arthur Grimios. It's like when I hear Lalo Josefowicz do a concerto by Adès or John Adams. You think, is there another way to play it? Maybe not.
Right. I've almost been inspired to get out the old saxophone in the past couple of weeks. And
well, I think you should. I think Bach double between violin and saxophone.
You know what? It's not a bad idea. And but I've actually, you know, I played several of the cello suites, and it's extraordinarily difficult music on any instrument. But once you start to make these inner discoveries, and once you start to hear how these lines connect, it's some of the most magical music, especially if you're in the right acoustic venue, and everything just locks together.
Yeah.
So again, we're here with Andrew Sords, violinist, and we're in our virtual edition of Just Ask, Volume 2. For those of you who don't know, Just Ask, we started at the North State Symphony several years ago as an opportunity during our Masterworks performances to allow the audience to ask anything they wanted about the musicians, the music, the soloists, backgrounds, what you had for dinner. Do you have pre-concert rituals? That's always a popular question. What does a conductor do? Do we need a conductor? You know, what is the baton for? Why do you conduct without a baton sometimes? We've gotten anything and everything. And every concert that we do this, I literally get anywhere between 100 and 300 questions. So it's been a very popular series, and we're happy to continue doing it online, especially when we can, you know, reach across the soloists like Andrew Sords all the way in Cleveland, Ohio from California.
Well, we had 30 questions at the Beethoven Triple about what the color of my suit jacket was. When we did, it was coral.
Is that what was on the tag?
I have no idea.
And isn't that is that the suit jacket that you wore for your wedding? Is that the one we're talking about?
No.
Okay.
Slate blue, Scott.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My apologies. So again, if you're just joining us, please send us your questions along. We're here chatting with Andrew Sords, or I'm here chatting with Andrew Sords, violinist all the way in Cleveland, Ohio from California, bridging a distance of at least 2,700 miles. And that's really, you know, a great thing about what's going on is this is the, you know, there's no perfect age for this to happen, but, you know, it's such a great time to be so connected to everyone. You know, in any other time period where major pandemics have happened, imagine being stuck with a telephone, or even if that, and not being able to communicate in the ways that we are all so accustomed to nowadays. And
now,
ways
that, and I want a martini. It has to be a virtual happy hour.
Things like virtual happy hours. You know, who would have thought that when we were born that virtual happy hours would be a thing? So let's see, Andrew. Let's find what are some questions that have been popular in previous Just Asks.
Oh, everything about fashion. You know, was Scott actually wearing bell bottoms on stage? The answer was no.
No.
Did Andrew have glitter on for the evening gala? The answer might have been yes. We've told jokes from the stage before. You know, the difference between a bull and an orchestra. That's a popular one.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
You've at my expense. You know, how many concert violinists does it take to change a light bulb?
That's also a good one.
Another good one. Why does the violin have 4 strings? Does the horse even know that its tail is being donated to the bow? We've heard it all. Why
does the violin have 4 strings?
You sound like the first grader in Sacramento who stumped me with that question. I don't know. I mean, the thing is, the violin has virtually been unchanged for 500 years. The modern violin as we know it, really perfected by the Amati family in the late 1500s, is virtually unchanged. You might have a few millimeters of difference here between the long pattern instruments and various sizes, etc., the arch in the instrument, but the piano's undergone many more changes than the violin.
Right.
The wind instruments, of course, the addition of brass instruments, the addition of auxiliary percussion. But the violin has been pretty constant.
Apparently we have a question from somewhere about what concerto we would like to perform next.
Oh, I love that question. You know, when I think about you, Scott, on stage and your energy and our rehearsal process, you know, we've done a lot of the big ones. We've done the Tchaikovsky and Sibelius, Mendelssohn. I really think that Shostakovich Concerto would come alive. I think of Shostakovich and I think of Brahms with you. I think a barber would be indulgent and chocolatey and easing into a bubbly jacuzzi with a mimosa. But certainly Shostakovich comes to mind.
That would be a lot of fun. I think we've talked about doing a Beethoven at some point. You know, a Brahms double would also be fun.
Yes, and of course, my dear friend John Waltz from Los Angeles, who really is a legend down there. He and I were the most recent Brahms double collaborators, and I learned so much. First of all, I'm a closeted cellist. You know, if I could be anything other than a violinist, apart from a Broadway star, because I can't sing and dance, I would be a cellist just to get that repertoire. And I think that Brahms and Beethoven must have felt badly for the cellists because they didn't write a solo concerto for the instrument. So they gave them all the best tunes in the double concerto and the Beethoven triple concerto. And with each of the cello entrances, I think I'm a little green with envy.
You mentioned just now that you can't sing and dance. However, I happen to know that you were on, what was it, Pittsburgh Dancing with the Stars?
I was.
Now, is there somewhere that our viewers can find a video to that?
You mean when I was doing my... Thank God there is no video, though I have a colleague who's been hounding me of it. There are pictures. You know, doing a 30-minute concerto is something that, of course, it's a little bit frightening and it's walking a high wire, but learning the 3-minute Paso Doble with that choreography, performing it live in front of folks was the scariest thing I've ever done.
Wow. And so are we able to find this somewhere?
I imagine that everybody has a price, so... yeah.
Okay, we have a question. For Andrew, let's see. What are some plan Bs and Cs for yourself and other musicians? Maybe you can chime in on people you know as well. And how we'll be able to move forward without as many live performances, especially for those who make a living as traveling musicians. And to preface that, how many concerts how many concerts and recitals do you average a year?
Over 50.
And how many countries, continents, that sort of thing?
Well, last year alone, I went to 4 different continents. And that's another reason I'm so grateful for this industry and this career and this box of wood with 4 strings taking me to these countries that I probably normally wouldn't be able to afford going to. I'm very, very grateful for all of my travel. That's a good question. And the answer is, I don't know. We hope that it's going to return to some kind of normal, but what will that new normal be? I see a lot of folks doing distance recording for soundtracks. That's a good idea. I've got my music editions that are out there now. People are teaching and rehearsing virtually. I was just reading an article about a quartet in New York that now is rehearsing over Zoom. Could you imagine putting together an intricate Bartok quartet with the distances of technology, the challenges of technology? I couldn't.
Yeah.
So I'm not starting a living room concert series on my house. I'm not sure I want to do that. I'm not sure listeners want that. I'm just thinking that audiences are going to be hungry for the live music adventure. The fact that Broadway is dark and the Cleveland Orchestra is dark right now. I'm sure there are folks hungry for the live concert, maybe sitting 6 feet away from their closest audience member.
Yeah, and we mentioned these virtual settings for concerts, and they're remarkably difficult to do. One, because musicians, again, even right now, this may change, but we can't even become, we can't get in proximity to each other. So even a small group of musicians in a room right now isn't happening. But, you see online some of these projects that various orchestras have done where you have a 2 or 3 minute piece and you actually see all of the orchestra musicians from their house. Some people think that that's a live performance. It's actually not a live performance. They are individually recorded tracks, and for an engineer to put all of those together takes upwards of 50 to 100 hours of editing. So those of you who are here and didn't know that, I mean, those are huge projects that you're seeing all over the internet with all these groups posting 20 to 50 musicians playing the same 2 to 3 minute piece. It's a huge engineering feat to be able to do something like that. So just a reminder, we're here with Andrew Sords in our virtual Just Ask session. And if you have a question for us, please feel free to submit it. And
I have a question for you, Scott.
Yes, Andrew.
How do you decide on your different hairstyles for each concert season? What is your inspiration? Who is your inspiration?
I don't actively decide on what hairstyle I'm going to implement for any particular concert or concert season. Right now, this is the lack of accessibility to a stylist haircut. But I do hear that some of us cut our own hair. Could you tell us about that?
That's true. I've been doing that for 5 years. I am too cheap to go find somebody to cut my hair out. And if I want constant maintenance on it, every couple of weeks, then I'm the one doing it.
See, I couldn't imagine doing something like that. I tried something like that when I was, I believe, in 7th or 8th grade. I tried to give myself a bowl cut because it was popular at the time.
Yes.
No, my parents were not happy about that. So that was the last time I cut my own hair.
You might be more coordinated now, Scotty.
No, I'm not. Julia may cut my hair. We'll see.
Now that is something we can continue on the live virtual chat.
Julia Bashachek wanted to ask the same question. I'm assuming that was about Caesar's question. Oh, here's a question for Andrew. How many violins do you own, and what is the most expensive one?
I only own one violin. That's a good question. They're so prohibitively expensive that we only can afford one or two. However, I had the good fortune just back in February, it seems like a decade ago, but back in February, I had a recital with a Stradivarius and a Guarneri del Gesù, and it was, I felt like a kid on Christmas morning to be able to play those instruments. I think those instruments together were $15 million combined. And don't think I didn't think that when it was under when you've got sweaty palms and you're worried about holding the instruments up, you don't want anything to go awry. But a good analogy would be going from a nice car to a wild luxury car, to a Ferrari that can handle any turn, any navigation, any speed. In fact, Scott and I know a little bit about that, not because we have a fleet of Ferraris, but because we actually raced on a BMW track in Greenville or Spartanburg, South Carolina, in a bunch of high-end BMWs the day before our Mozart concert, which was a great, great afternoon.
That was a lot of fun and extraordinarily terrifying.
Yes.
Anthony Polcari says, when is North State Symphony performing the Essa Pekka Violin Concerto with Andrew?
With me? Why? I think that's a good one for a Rachel Barton Pine or a Layla Giuseppowitz. You know, it's really good music. And Salonen probably has one of the greatest minds in this industry. It seems like he can do anything. Like Bernstein, like Tilson Thomas. They can compose, they can play, they can conduct. That does sound like a good project. It's not the first concerto by a living composer I would do. Joan Tower comes to mind. I'm fascinated by her use of rhythm, her pairing the violin with the percussion and percussive elements. If Scott were to do a festival that involved Joan Tower's music, I would probably be on board with that a little bit faster than Salonen. But you never know.
I have a question from Becky Carter, who is asking if we're thinking of doing something like this with different people from the North State Symphony. And absolutely. I'd love to highlight different musicians. We actually also have a series called Musician Accents, where we are getting to know individual musicians from the North State Symphony. And that's something we're going to continue to do in this live performance dark period. So look for that as we start to roll out a schedule for various musician interviews. So great question. And yes, we are definitely going to highlight the North State Symphony players because they are the North State Symphony. They are our whole reason for being here.
And you have so many virtuosos in an orchestra. Great, wonderful, shiny faces that I look forward to seeing when I go back.
And let's see. Thought I saw another question. Hang on a second. So we will chat for a few more minutes. Again, we are here with Andrew Sords, violin, and this is the North State Symphony Just Ask Virtual Edition Volume 2. And we hope to keep doing these and to continue to bring you engaging interviews and content and interesting characters like Andrew Sords, who I've collaborated with many times now. Yeah, so it's fun to experiment also with different times of the day. You know, we've been doing events at 7 p.m. and now we're trying 1 p.m. and to give you a little bit of a break in your day. And coming up, we're also going to continue our virtual watch parties. I think we have one coming up this Friday where we have an interview, actually sort of a pre-concert introduction with another symphony musician where we're going to chat about Barbara's Adagio for Strings. And I'm also going to talk about Berlioz and his Roman Carnival Overture and how much fun it is to conduct and what great music Berlioz is, because he's certifiably insane, that man. And yeah, so we hope to continue to do this, especially this year as we're continuing to celebrate Beethoven's 250th birthday. We have 2 watch parties coming up. Exactly. One with Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, which is easily the most popular piece of music in the history of the world out of any genre, any style you can think of. And we're also going to...
more popular than Poker Face, though, really?
I think so. But we also have Beethoven's Seventh Symphony, which the North State Symphony did in 2018 in February. So we have a lot of exciting things coming up. Brian Simpson says, put the Scream on a watch party. That would last all of 30 seconds.
Oh, that is such a great video. It's iconic. You know, Scott, you don't give yourself enough credit for that. I believe you were the most viewed conductor that entire year, if not the entire. How many views did you have? 75?
That I actually just did a podcast today where we chatted about this. So the North State Symphony in 2017 did Stravinsky's Firebird Suite from his ballet. And in a particular performance in Redding, California, in the Cascade Theater, we had one very excited audience member, who I won't name here, who during a very specific piece, point in the music where it goes from just dying away and diminishing to nothing, and then smack, we have the opening chord to the Infernal Dance, and we got quite a reaction from that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please, after we're done chatting, go to YouTube and type in Firebird Scream or Symphony Scream. Any one of those will bring you to...
You will not be able to watch it only once. You might watch it 10 times in a row, like I did.
But I had no idea it would take off as much as it did. On YouTube, I think we have around 3 million views. But there are many, many platforms where the video has spread. And 2 years ago, it was around 60 million views on various sources. It's probably a lot more than that now. But it's crazy how far the North State Symphony and a Firebird Scream is gone.
Scott, were you able to make $1 per view?
If only. No, if we had a video per week, then we'd be rolling in some money, definitely. I know, that was a great concert, and one of many amazing concerts we've had with the symphony, 2 of which Andrew has been in the past 5 years, as we head into my 6th season with the North State Symphony, which is incredible. It doesn't feel like that long at all. Again, we'll stay here for a few more minutes. This is the virtual Just Ask for those of you who have been filtering in and out. Great, just a really great opportunity just to break apart your day with fun conversation with colleagues like Andrew Sords, and it's been really nice to be able to do this. Again, if you have any questions, oh, actually, we do have a question. Let's see. Someone asks, how are conductors engaging with musicians and communities during the current shutdown? One, through outlets like this. We are doing watch parties, as I just talked about. We hope to do something with our own musicians. We don't think we can do something like the short piece that has been played with other orchestras where you have all the different parts. We maybe can do something like that in the near future, but at the very least, I hope to do a game of melodic tag where various musicians take a part of the melody and we just splice together those videos and create a movement or something from a work. So that'll be a lot of fun if we can get that going. Really, this is the time for conductors like myself to try new things, to see what you guys like and what you don't like. And some things will fall away. We will definitely keep doing things like Just Ask, especially with amazing guest artists and musicians from the symphony. And we'll, like I said, do things like our musician accents, where we can get to know better and in detail and in depth individual musicians from the North State Symphony.
Yeah, I think you're being too tame. I think that you could use this as a tell-all. Best soloists, worst soloists. Biggest divas on stage. Maybe not.
I wonder, Andrew, you have a question from Jonathan Nickel Kranick. Andrew, how are you keeping busy during the pandemic?
Mr. Nickel Kranick, there are many episodes of Golden Girls on the Hall channel. Never gets old. The world news, of course, is all-consuming. And every day I tune into The View. There is the regular cat fermentation period, where you take the cats outside. I haven't learned to cook yet, but I have learned to be a little bit more adept out in the yard. And keeping busy chatting with loved ones and seeing family from afar. There's a new baby in the family, so the next generation of Sords is here, little Aurora Eve, my cousin, and that's absolutely exciting to see, even during this crisis. So yes, there are ways to keep busy.
And Andrew, this is a question for me. What do you miss most right now?
happy hour and restaurants and bars, because that was part and parcel of my days. Ending, and you and I have done that so much on tour. We're following the rehearsal, following the concert. We end up at a favorite restaurant or bar, and we know the bartender and servers, and you just make it part of your day. It's part of the socializing that happens. So absolutely, that element is missing for me. And being able to see my wonderful colleagues. You know, I wish that I could get Liz, my pianist over here, to read through some sonatas. I imagine we could if we're 6 feet away. No, don't come at me. We can't.
And you mentioned something, you know, happy hour, as simple as that sounds, it's actually one of the most essential concepts of our profession, because, you know, we are who we are because of the connections and the relationships that we make. And we, you know, especially for freelance musicians, you know, people don't hire freelance musicians unless they know them, unless there's some kind of connection, unless they're not just, it's not just about how well they play, it's, are they fun to work with? Do they, you know, do they bring something that's not just musical to a concert set? And, you know, we are fortunate at the Symphony to have guest artists who are excited about going out into the schools and doing outreach activities and talking to people and doing things that align with the mission of the organization. And really, it's you know, what I miss most is, you know, not just the musical process itself, but it's talking to people and sharing, you know, our excitement about music and making these connections and collaborations and talking about ideas and what we could do.
Well, Scott, you recall just 2.5 months ago in Juneau, every day following a rehearsal or concert, there was an event, there was a meal, there was a beer to be had, there were colleagues to meet and chat with. You know, I miss those days.
Yep, and we certainly can't wait for those to return. Well, we've had a lot of great questions, and we certainly hope to do this again. We certainly hope that everyone out there who has tuned in, that you're staying safe, and that your family and friends and colleagues are all unaffected by everything that's going on, and we hope it continues that way. And most of all, I know I speak for Andrew, we can't wait to talk to you all and make music with all of you in person very, very soon, hopefully, if we're all smart about the next few weeks and months. So, Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been fun answering questions. It's always great talking with you and getting together with colleagues virtually about, you know, especially ones we have so many past experiences with and past collaborations. And thank you all to who joined in with us today and asked such good questions. And we hope to see you all again soon. So be safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.